Ever been scrolling through Amazon, seeing a sleek inverter listed with a glossy photo and a headline that promises pure sine wave power for all your devices, only to find out once it's wired up that the outlets fizz out, the fan hums louder than expected, or the whole unit just can't keep up with a modest fridge? I've been there, and it's the exact reason I sit down today to walk you through the AIMS 2000W 12V Pure Sine Inverter Kit, so you can avoid the disappointment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The real question isn't just, does it produce 2000 watts, but will it actually fit my daily setup without turning my campsite into a power-starved nightmare? Let's dig into what matters when you're choosing a 12-volt inverter for a van, RV, or off-grid cabin. First off, the AIMS kit is a bundled package. You get the inverter itself, a sturdy remote control, and all the mounting hardware you'll need to get it onto a battery box. That sounds convenient, but the convenience factor can hide a few trade-offs. The unit is rated at 2000 watts continuous with a pure sine wave output, which is a step up from the cheaper modified sine models you'll see on the lower end side of the market. In practice, that means you can run sensitive electronics, think laptops, TVs, and even a small microwave without the jittery noise that sometimes trips up cheaper inverters. Now, who actually benefits from that 2000W ceiling? If you're a full-time van lifer who runs a dual-zone refrigerator, a 60-watt LED lighting system, and a couple of USB chargers, you'll probably use less than 300 watts on an average day. In that scenario, the AIMS inverter is a bit of an overkill. You could get away with a 1000-watt model and save a little money. The sweet spot for this particular kit is a light to moderate off-grid setup where you plan to run a few hydro appliances at once, maybe a 1200-watt microwave, a small air conditioner, and a charge controller for solar panels. If you're planning to power a portable workshop with a table saw and a cordless drill charger, that 2000W rating gives you a safety margin that many smaller units simply don't provide. One practical strength that many reviewers gloss over is the remote control. Most 12V inverters ship with a basic front panel switch, but AIMS includes a simple handheld remote that lets you turn the unit on or off from a distance of up to 20 feet. I tested that out in a garage setting. I could start the inverter from the driveway, walk inside, and have power ready the moment I opened the door. That's a genuine convenience when you're dealing with a cramped battery compartment that's hard to reach without tools. It also means you can keep the inverter off while you're away, which helps preserve battery life, a small but real benefit. On the flip side, the kit's size is worth noting. The housing is about the size of a small suitcase, which is fine for a permanent RV installation where you have a dedicated enclosure, but it can be a pain to tuck into a compact van build. The mounting brackets are sturdy, but you'll need a solid piece of wood or metal to bolt the unit to, and you'll have to make sure there's adequate airflow. AIMS does include a heatsink, yet in my testing the inverter's fan kicked on at around 40 C, and the fan noise was noticeable, roughly the same volume as a low-speed ceiling fan. If you're sensitive to sound, especially at night in a tiny camper, that could be a drawback. Another hidden trade-off is the line interference that some users report when they run large appliances alongside sensitive audio equipment. Because the inverter delivers a true sine wave, it eliminates the typical buzz you hear with modified sine models, but the high-power draw can still introduce a subtle hum on speakers if the grounding isn't perfect. The solution isn't built into the kit. You'll need to run a dedicated ground wire or use a power conditioner. It's not a deal-breaker for most, but it's something to keep in mind if you plan to watch movies on a sound system while the fridge runs. Battery compatibility is another practical consideration. The inverter is designed for a 12V source, and it can handle a 30-amp continuous draw without overheating. However, to sustain a 2000-watt output you'll need a fairly robust battery bank, at least a 100-watt deep-cycle battery if you want to run a 1500-watt load for an hour. That means you're looking at a significant upfront cost beyond the inverter itself. The kit does not include a built-in low-voltage shutoff, so you'll have to manage that manually or add an external battery monitor. In a setup where battery life is already tight, that extra monitoring step could feel like an inconvenience. If you compare this AIMS unit to other 2000-watt offerings on the market, you'll notice that the brand leans heavily on its 30-year legacy in power engineering. That history does show up in the way the internals are.